Good evening. The old man here. 12 3 2024. First of all, a little update on the chickens. I finally outsmarted them. They got me for about 2 weeks now. This morning I figured out a way to get them all in the coop at the same time, or I should say they're pen at the same time. And they're basically locked in the pen and coop for the winter now. With everything being froze up, there's not too much for them to scrounge for. Although I have to say, them son of guns sure do try. But tonight's subject, I'd like to talk about shit hitting the fan and what role might silver and gold play in that. First of all, it's going to depend. It's going to depend a lot on your plan. And the reason I say that is, first of all, shit hits the fan's got a different definition depending on who you talk to. I think a lot of people envision, a Mad Max situation. I don't see that, honestly. And nobody wins in that case. It's just a free-for-all, and it's just fear porn. That's all it is. Guys like to hype that shit up. Just like the guys that, with their firearms, and they can imagine themselves out there, defending their property and whatever else if shit hits a fan. That's all well and good, but you better have a pretty damn good plan in place and a good group of people to work with. And for most of us, I don't think that's reality. And I guess my definition of shit hits the fan is any one of several different factors comes to play. One might be a banking crisis. One could be a bond market crisis. One could be a housing crash. I don't think at the end of the day we're going to get a housing crash unless we have either major stock problems, major business problems. We're going to have to go into a pretty deep recession. And I think that's possible, but I think, I'm not sure what domino might fall first, but I think we're going to see at least a couple bubbles break, and maybe all of them, who knows. Getting back to what might your plan be and what would gold and silver, what role would that play in a shit hit the fan situation? Well, for me, my plan is, first of all, to have 3 months' bills in cash. So if there's a banking crisis, you may have trouble getting money in and out of a bank. Well, you might not have any problem getting it in, but you're going to have a problem getting it out. Part of that plan might be having a couple banking accounts at different banks. So if one bank goes down, you can always use the other bank to pay bills. Of course, there's always the option of paying cash or a check. But then again, a check, if your bank goes down, a check ain't going to be no good either. So, one way or another, have 3 months worth of cash available, and you'll have time to figure out how to get them bills paid, whether that's a house payment, consumer powers, whatever, car payments, whatever. But if all your money's tied up in a bank and that bank goes down, yeah, you might be FDIC insured, but I don't think many people know that it may take up to 4 years to get your money out of that bank account or that bank. And so you can pretty much kiss that money goodbye for a while. You may get it back, but it's going to be gone for a while. And keep in mind, with high inflation or possibly hyperinflation, in that 4-year period. Let's say you had $1,000 in the bank, and you had, over those 4 years, you had 30, 40, even 50% inflation over those 4 years, of which may very well be, because if you have a banking crisis, the feds are going to print money like it's going out of style, therefore inflating the money supply, and inflation is going to be terrible. So if you had $1,000 in the bank when the bank went down, and you don't get that money back for 4 years, $1,000 might only buy you $500 worth of goods, so keep that in mind. That's also a reason not to keep much money in a bank. Normally try at the most to keep a month's worth of bills in the bank. That way you can pay your bills without having to run to the damn bank every time you turn around. But anything over that doesn't make sense. And the next, besides having cash on hand that you can, find a way of paying bills, next thing would be to be sure you got good preps. Food distribution is going to be difficult. You could find a run on the stores and that where, hell, even around here, if you get bad weather report, and our weather hasn't been that bad in the last 25 years, but 30 years, whatever. But when we do have a storm report coming in, people tend to panic a little bit. Of course, I blame that on the news. They kind of make it up to be a lot more than it really is. And, stores can get, I don't want to say get cleaned out, but they can get cleaned up pretty thin sometimes. The staples, the eggs and the milk and the bread are all gone in a few hours, possibly, or even a day. But in a banking crisis, it could be gone and gone for a while, or super thin for a while. Could even be kind of like the pandemic when, it was a limit one, so people didn't hoard. And people, when they find things hard to get, they do tend to hoard. That's just natural instinct. If you've been to 5 stores and they didn't have any and the 6 stores got 5, well, you'll buy all 5 even if the price is double, just because you don't want to go to the next 5 stores and not find nothing. So you might see it like limit one supplies and that, if they even got it. So that's something to think about, is your preps. The more your preps, the better your preps are, the least likely, at least you're not going to worry about getting food. You're good there. You could be thinking about things like paying your bills and getting your money, figure out how you're going to get the money to the bank. To the bank or whoever, to get to the person that you owe money to. So, you don't want too many things going on at once. Again, you wind up in a panic, and no good decisions are made in a panic. So good preps is going to be a big thing, plenty of food, plenty of water, and so on. Right down to, your firearms, your training, and your ammunition, so many people I know, and I've seen it many, many, many times, where people don't have hardly any ammunition around the house at all. Come deer season, I've seen years past where, the industry totally run out of ammunition, and people had a half a box of shells at home. They went to sight in, they found out their scope was bad. Put a new scope on it, they burned through their ammunition, and they don't have any way of buying any more. Here a couple years ago, maybe 2 hunting seasons ago, I think. 30, even something as simple as, or something you'd think would be readily available, like .6 and 30-30. We just couldn't find any. We had guys with guns and no ammo. They wound up buying new either 308s, because I had 308 ammo, or new 6.5 Creedmoor, of which they seemed to have plenty of ammo for the 6.5 Creedmoor. The factories did. It seemed like they tooled up and made a bunch of it. So just another good reason to have a decent stash of ammunition, for whatever reason. Who knows how things will go. I'm not saying they're going to get that crazy, but I still think it's a good idea to have some preps. along that lines too, defensive preps. Out where we're at, I don't see it really being an issue, but I'm sure in many parts of the country, it could be very important, just depending on how things go, how bad things get. If they really even get that bad in that department, who knows? But in a stock crash, that's more of a long-term down the road thing. Well, depending on how far away you are from retirement, a good friend of mine in the 2008 crash, he was just about ready to retire, and he had over $500,000 in his IRA. And when 2008 crash hit, he had less than half of that, and he wound up working for another half a dozen or more years to build his IRA account back up. And he had a high-paying job. That's why he was able to bring it back up in such short order. But for most people, you could lose 40 years worth of savings. You could lose half of that, and then what the hell are you going to do? Just Social Security doesn't go that far. So, I think for me, that's where gold and silver comes in, instead of an IRA, or maybe along with, depending on who you are and what the situation is. In my situation, I don't believe in anybody else taking my care of my money. Nobody cares about my money more than I do. So I don't like the banks holding on to my money. I don't like financing the banks. I don't believe anybody that would handle an IRA has any of your interest at heart. They don't care. It's all about them making money. In fact, they work day and night trying to figure out how to screw you out of yours. So there again, it's just me. I don't know. I've always been this way. Never been able to trust anybody when it comes to my money. So I guess take care of myself. To me, the only thing that makes sense, especially right now, I mean, there's times where other things make sense, but right now, the only thing that makes sense to me is gold and silver. When you got big money guys, sitting on the sidelines with billions of dollars that they're not investing, and they're telling you there's no value out there. I would say a guy that's sitting on 300, Warren Buffett, I finally thought of his name, but what Warren Buffett's sitting on $300 billion in bonds or the like. Who knows for sure what he's doing exactly? I sure don't. But they're saying that he's got $300 billion sitting on the sidelines because there's nothing to invest in right now. He's taking a lot of money out of Apple stocks and Bank of America stocks. In fact, Jamie Dimon has also cashed a bunch of Bank of America stocks. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And, the CEO of a company sells stocks in his own company. He's got to make, in major stock, not just, a few thousand or live on, not like that. We're talking major amounts where he, he's seeing the same thing. He's seeing that things like the Bank of America is overvalued right now, that it's not a deal. And, but the big concern, at least for me, the thing that makes you think is Warren Buffett sitting on the sidelines when he's a value investor, and there just ain't no value out there right now. So I think the stock market's, got the potential to get pretty ugly. I don't know what it's going to look like. I got a theory, but I almost hate to throw it out there. It sounds like fear porn, so I don't even want to go there. It's all about preps. In the beginning, you're going to find that, the dollar is going to be the most accepted, and that's why I'm saying 3 months worth of bills, money, at least to pay enough for 3 months worth of bills. That gives you a little time to, let things settle down and figure out what direction everything's going in. But then your preps are also going to give you some time. You're not out there selling gold and silver to buy food. At that time, your gold and silver might bring good money, who knows, or good dollars, not, but food's going to cost awful lot at that point if you can even find it. Gold and silver might not do you any good if there's no food to buy, So And that's just my, my fears is not to be able to buy anything at that point. And so no matter how much gold and silver you got, if there's no food to buy, especially in the wintertime, I mean, you're not growing food or nothing else. So, and if you don't have any preps, man, that's not going to be good at all. So, like I say, your preps are very important. But and then the third line of defense would be your gold and silver. You know, if it lasts that long, I mean, I really don't see it lasting that long. But if you ever get back all the way back to your gold and silver, think of most people aren't going to have anything at that point. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck, not because they're underpaid, but because they have so much debt. They've been sold into just basically a debt spiral. You know, they're trying to keep up the Joneses, and that, it's just if you think about it, the average person's got a couple vehicles that they got loans on. They got a house, a big house they can't really afford to get a loan on that. They got insurances besides them loans. You got maintenance on those cars. You got maintenance on that house. That shit all adds up. And then you got, and that's not good enough. They got to have their motorcycle, or they got to have their jet skis, or they got to have some other toy, that they've spent a lot of money on, just to impress the Joneses. It's not that they need it or even they even want it. They just want to fit in, with everybody else in the neighborhood, or their little clique at work. We all got a Harley, whatever. I don't know. And I'm not picking on the guys that like Harleys. I mean, I like the bikes too. I just never bothered owning one. To me, I'm more practical, and if it's not practical, I'm probably not going to own it. But yeah, the last thing I'd want to be doing is getting rid of my, not having a plan, not having food, not having food and water and my other preps, and not having any cash on hand. So the first thing right out of the chutes, things get shitty, and I'm starting to sell gold and silver, and paying extravagant prices for whatever I need because I failed to plan. That'd be the last thing I'd want to do. And when you figure that, the average person doesn't have much of anything that they really own, and they don't have any preps, and they don't have any gold and silver, and they don't have any, basically, if you're a stacker, your small community, I mean, that might be just your family and friends, might depend on you, just for some sort of livelihood. That's the way I look at it anyways. I tend to be, again, a little anal about it, and probably think about it more than most people do. I tend to analyze it, take it, like the shit hit the fan for me. In my head, it's gone anywhere from Mad Max, of which I know in my head's ridiculous, but I start there and I work my way forward or backwards and think, well, okay, this is worst case scenario. I really don't see that happening, but what if, and what if, and what if? What if this goes, then I think we're going to be at? What if that goes, where do I think we're going to be at? The bond market, I mean, that doesn't affect me really. So, I mean, I care because it's going to affect the country, but it doesn't affect me directly. So I'm not too worried about what the bond market does, as long as it's not a real steep crash, because then it will affect everybody for sure. And same thing with the stock market. I don't have anything in the stock markets. I don't have anything in IRAs, and things like that. So I'm not really worried about that either. Again, unless it's really severe and everybody starts losing their job, and then that's going to affect all of us. So there again, I try to plan out as far as I can and as best I can, and figure at the end of the day, you're going to need gold and silver, even if you just use it to start your own local economy. Somebody's going to need something. And it's got to start somewhere. If nobody's got anything, we're going to be trading seashells, for Christ's sakes. It's going to have some way of paying somebody for labor, and that's what it's all going to be about. And basically, that's where I guess my stacking boils down to try to have the best plan possible. Although with that being said, I think Mike Tyson says it best, is everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And then the plans are out the window. But at least you got a plan. Without a plan, your plan will surely fail. So that's where I'm at on that tonight, guys. Hey, thank you for checking out the channel again tonight. Please leave a comment. I appreciate that. Been getting some really cool comments lately, and even a couple guys point me in the direction of other YouTubers to get different perspectives. Man, I can't think of the name of the channel now, but I'll mention it tomorrow night. I'll have to write it down. I thought I could remember it, but apparently I can't. So we'll see you again tomorrow night. Thank you, guys. Good night. Bye.